Hello and welcome to this special broadcast brought to you by SABC News. Tonight we're in conversation with President Jacob Zuma, who has been re-elected as the President of the African National Congress. Mr. President, congratulations are in order.
Thank you very much indeed.
I want to start this interview this way to say you have had 5 years at the helm of this powerful organization. It has just given you another 5 years. I guess the question many people are asking is, what are you going to do differently this time, that which presumably you couldn't do over the past 5 years?
Well, I think the ANC is a living organization. The ANC lives almost every day. As the challenges come, we deal with challenges as they come. There is a way. ANC has a culture, traditions, and everything, which it employs when it meets the challenges. I don't think we're going to deviate from there. We're going to continue to do so. And of course, challenges are going to change. We will be using the ANC methods of handling challenges as we have been doing since Bulugwana, at least at the level of the presidency. From Bulugwana, we worked for unity of the ANC. As you know, there had been very tough contestation at the time. We handled matters from there. Uppermost was the unity of the organization, which we worked for a long time, and we are going to continue doing so as well this time around. We are going to work hard, as we did from Polokwane, to implement the resolutions that conference has taken. As we reported in this 53rd conference, what is it that we have done? There are resolutions that are there, and I'm happy that from Polokwane was given a team in the top officials as well as the NEC, and this time delegates of the ANC has also given me those two teams, and I think I am going to do what I did in working to ensure that we succeed to implement the mandate given to us. And this is what I'm going to do. I don't think I will want to imagine something new, something that does not exist. I'm going to do implementation. I am going to emphasize more this time the implementation, both from the ANC, as we have done to do better, as well as the ANC government, so that our policies that we have, we add more energy in the implementation.
That presumably explains the emphasis on the National Development Plan.
Absolutely, it does. It does, as you know. When we came back from Polokwane, there was no National Development Plan. That was part of the mandate. We understood that in order to implement our resolutions on the basis of the mandate, what is it that we needed to do? And there are many things that we did in government as well as in the ANC. The National Development Plan is part of that, that here is a vision that had to be embraced not just by the African National Congress only, but by the entire country as a vision for the country. Those are the kind of achievements that we're able to make as a result of the mandate given to us from Polokwane.
The question some of us are asking themselves, Mr. President, is why there was this lukewarm response from the ANC on the National Development Plan. In other words, as soon as the document was tabled and the processes started, the ANC as a party was never really there to embrace this and to show leadership, to say to the rest of the country, this is what is going to lay the basis of, this is what is going to be the foundation of the things that we're going to do as a nation.
No, we were not lukewarm. We're not lukewarm. I think this is perhaps the credit that must be given to the ANC, that it is a confident organization. It's an organization that do not want to grab everything. It's an organization that can have confidence to the people, that can give people a chance to lead. You will appreciate that as the ANC we have produced very clever documents, historically. And those documents, no matter how accurate and correct they are, those who hold different views from the ANC, for an example, they'll always attack those documents, whatever you say.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Mr. President, because this time around, everyone agrees, including your detractors, your chief opponents are the first to say, this time around, this is a very good plan. In fact, we are surprised that the ANC is not embracing it in the manner that it
That's
should.
precisely the point I'm explaining. That when I said we needed a plan, genuinely, we wanted a plan that can be owned by South Africans. We wanted a plan that everybody is going to feel this is our plan. If this plan was worked out by government, I'm sure the job of those who oppose the ANC, no matter how correct it is as it is, they would have said, what is this? So I felt it would be important, instead of us working on it, crafting it, we must create an enabling environment for it to come. And therefore said, for this plan to be a plan, because it was in my mind that we need a plan that everybody should embrace. This is what South Africa should do. Therefore felt that we need South Africans to actually work hard to craft it, to produce it, so that everybody knows it's not just ANC thinking, but it's the thinking of South Africans who are talented, who have got expertise. And that is why I then appointed a minister in the presidency who had a very thorough understanding of government, given his previous work as a Minister of Finance, who would therefore, from the point of view of whatever government could contribute, would be in a position to contribute. But also said, instead of this being structured either a department or whatever, let us have a commission which is legally detached from government, linked by this minister, not populated by ANC people, but call South Africans who have ideas all over to say, here is a national task that needs everybody to come. And many people gave themselves, and they were not looked at their political affiliation or whatever. South Africans who are citizens who wants to see South Africa succeed to come. And we looked out of that kind of pool and then had this group of people, talented South Africans, without looking at any of the prejudices of, so to speak, to say, here is a task, work on it. Don't look at me because I come from the ANC or government that is appointing you. Be critical to us as well, because we want something that is more objective, that is not, in a sense, suffering from the prejudices and people saying, look, these are my ideas, I've got to defend. And these people produce this document. And once they produced it, precisely because of that process, it was not produced by the ANC or by government. Now, once it was produced, no one was looking at it with a kind of prejudices about the aims of the government. And it was important that that is given a chance for the country to look at and to say, are we happy or not happy? And I think tactically, it would have been wrong for the ANC to say, yes, this is what we have. Because everybody would have said, this is the ANC thing. And they might have changed their views. And we said, let it go. But the ANC accepted this, but not decided to take it over. Because it was important, because at the end, once the plan is there, once it is accepted, it is the government that must implement, it is the ruling party that must implement. And therefore it was important to wait for the ruling party, acknowledge it, accept it, that it has this watershed conference that must then say, yes, we are part of the South African community, to say this plan is our plan. Now we take a decision that our responsibility is to implement it, so that as it continues, South Africans participate in enhancing it, in making it work, because in the manner in which it has come about. That, I think, would be the reason.
Would I be wrong, Mr. President, in saying part of the equivocation perhaps may have had something to do with the fact that at the time the plan was introduced, leaders of COSATU, especially those the most vocal among them, were a lot closer to you at the time, and given the history of the minister who is responsible for the national plan and his association with the previous president, how much of that, in your view, sort of played a part in that COSATU saw Minister Manuel as someone who was associated with the so-called neoliberal policies of the the administration you took over from?
No, that did not play any part. I looked at the merits and I looked at the minister, as I say, guided by the fact that I could have said any other minister should, but guided by the fact that as a minister of finance in any country, you have a very thorough understanding of government, all the departments, because you deal with them from a financial point of view. It could have been anybody else, but it was just taking the correct decision, that this is a minister who could make a contribution, who could lead that kind of commission, not because of the views that were expressed by others. That did not cross my mind at all. It was just a question of, we wanted this to succeed. We wanted, therefore, somebody knowledgeable about what we actually need to do and how government works and how a plan, if it comes out, he would be saying, look, this is how I think we need to deal with it. How that will help answer questions to those group of people who could be asking questions about any other department. Now, if I would have taken any other minister, they would have been coming back to ask other ministers, by the way, how to run things in a department. So this was a very well calculated thing, not influenced by anything outside of what I'm just saying.
Mr. President, I want us to take a quick commercial break. We will be right back.
Big up, big up!
This week on Big Ups is a KZN giving props to a young lady who's giving back to the community through an organization called Wentworth Organization for Women. Khona la ku SABC 1, Mzansi for sure. I left.
They're both here tonight. Both women you love. But you made a commitment. So, no matter what happens, or what your feelings for hope happen to be, do not let Steffi down.
Unbeatable drama in The Bold and the Beautiful tonight at 6 on SABC 1. Mzansi, for sure.
Do you have what it takes to be South Africa's next great leader? Last season, 6 young people showcased their leadership skills following in the footsteps of past great leaders. This time, it could be you. SABC 1, in partnership with SABC Radio, is searching for candidates between the ages of 18 and 25 who will make a difference. To enter, call or SMS the numbers on the screen. Entries close 4th January 2013. Enter now. One day leader, shaping our future.
Welcome back. We're in conversation with President Jacob Zuma following his re-election as the ANC's president. Mr. President, I want to pick up on the unity issue you raised right at the beginning of this conversation. Now, upon your election in Polokwane in 2007, you said, we need to create a united ANC that recognizes the legacy left by comrades O.R. Tambo, Albert Luthuli, and Nelson Mandela. We need to heal the ANC. And one couldn't help yesterday, and in your impromptu speech immediately after the announcement of the results of the top 6, but also at the beginning of conference, you emphasized this point over and over again. Is it perhaps a recognition, one, of that this unity has been elusive over the past 5 years?
Well, I can't give one answer to that question. You will recall that at the foundation of the ANC, this was the call that was made.
Uniting African people.
Unite the African people, because if they are divided, they are weak. They needed to be united, to be stronger, to face the challenges that were there. And that has been the thread that has been running through the ANC. Unity of the ANC is absolutely important for it to be able to unite the nation. It's absolutely important. It's a matter you cannot leave out. And if there are ups and downs at times, wherein you feel, for an example, people in terms of the contestations that must be feeling otherwise, they need to be called again, to be reminded to say unity is important, particularly the ANC. That is the reason why you would always call for unity, because if the ANC is the biggest organization, is the leader, it has led the people of this country into freedom, it is now has a responsibility to lead people to complete freedom with economic freedom. So you need the people to be united. And for South Africans to be united, the ANC must be united. So it's important at a conference of the ANC to deal with that matter very, very, very strongly. Particularly also, as another point, that if people have been engaged in contestation and they might have developed hardened attitudes to say, follow the ANC principles and policies and culture, that once elections are done, no matter what your preferences has been, once the majority has decided, that is your decision. Your task as an ANC member thereafter is to work to unite the organization. So that is important to be made.
Now, that, Mr. President, having been your focus or your priority since the Polokwane conference in 2007, when it became apparent that you were going to get the overwhelming, like the decisive mandate that you got at this conference, could you not have stopped and said, there is a possibility here of unintended consequences, where, given the slates, people would actually put that unity in jeopardy, or that unity would be even more difficult to attain? Because when someone now looks at what has come, the people who are out, a lot of the people who were prominent in the other slate, how they have lost, then they begin to say, but there is that sense of a feeling of revenge and retribution, then, which then threatens the very unity that you have made a priority.
Not at all. You will recall, my brother, that from Polokwane, those who held a different view from me, they were in the cabinet after Polokwane. So it's not like it's the first time we come across the situation. And that was, in concrete terms, the actions that were saying, let us unite. And we have worked very well with them. And this time around, partly because you do not decide conference. I couldn't stand up there and say, look, I think elect people this way or that way. These are decisions of the branches that they've been discussing over months. And they are clear. As you know, we said at a particular time, nomination time. They were involved. They were not told by anyone. They decided to have preferences in whatever way. So they have to take that process into its final conclusion, which is elections. Now, if you are an ANC cadre, you should be knowing that once the majority has spoken, that decision is your decision. You then have to say, how do I deal with this? There can't be a sense of revenge. There would be no revenge, because you don't need to revenge. Because that is that's democracy at play in the ANC, wherein people say, we think so and so would be with the leader we prefer, so and so is the leader we prefer. Bear in mind that in the ANC, it's not necessarily because people I would be saying this one has better understanding of our policy, or because we agree on policy. There's nothing that makes us differ on policy, which is an important thing. In the ANC, people just have preferences. which they're not supposed to have, therefore such very hard or hardened attitude, because this hardened attitude come when people in fact differ on policy. When they say if this one wins, it means the policies are either diluted or misdirected or whatever. In the ANC, we don't have that. So once the decision is taken, all of us, with no exception, have to work towards uniting the ANC if we understand. And if you understand that you cannot plan revenge or acting against those who held a different view against, opposite to you, that you have got to deal with them. That's not the culture of the ANC.
So you have no worries or concerns whatsoever that the divisions that were there along the slates may later manifest themselves?
Not at all. I don't have a problem. I'm sure people who could come up or if such tendencies manifest themselves, there'll be something wrong with those individuals rather than the ANC as an organization. Because we've got clear practices and clear beliefs that have always guided us over the 100 years.
Well, a lot of people have subsequently speculated that perhaps some of the cabinet members who have lost their who have lost in the contest for NEC positions may even be purged. Is that something that South Africans should be worried about at all?
No, they shouldn't be worried at all. These are ANC people, all of them. And as I say, if all of us keep to the traditions of the ANC, nobody should worry. I mean, you should be worried if such people continue certain practices which will then be against what the ANC policies are saying. That's a different matter, because they will be now opening up a new chapter. At the moment, everybody understands that in terms of our democracy, internal democracy, members have a right to have preferences, irrespective of who. They've got a right to say, we don't prefer Zuma, we prefer somebody else. Zuma can't have an attitude thereafter, unless I'm not matured in ANC cultures and traditions. I would then have a problem. After the election, to say this comrade was saying, you know, I don't like Zuma, don't do so. Once the decision is taken, it is our decision. Even if I did not vote for somebody, once that somebody wins, it is my decision. That's what we do. Unless people behave differently, we should then could produce different kind of circumstances.
Now, the former party deputy president's decision not to contest the position in the NEC was interpreted by many people as something that indicates that he is no longer happy or would want to serve in a structure where you are the leader, or the people in your slate are involved. Now, when you announced that he was going to lead the school, the political school, you said you had a conversation between the three of you, yourself, him, and the current deputy president of the party. In those conversations, did you also discuss other things among those, for example, his future within cabinet?
No, we discussed only this matter, which was a very clear matter that taking the fact that he did not contest the deputy president of the party, and therefore he was no longer, and he also declined the election into the NEC, we then discussed, partly, and this must tell people, that we are not dealing with people coming from different kind of things. We are dealing with comrades. And that's why after the elections, we could sit down and discuss as comrades. We've been discussing with Comrade Khalima as comrades long before he went to prison and after he came to prison. It's not difficult to discuss, and that must tell the story, that therefore the issue that we were contesting is not an issue. That's why we could sit and talk, say, comrade, these are the ideas I have, given the fact that you might have more time now, etc., etc. So it was easy to discuss that. That was an issue we were discussing, and agreed, and immediately got to the deputy president of the ANC, the new one, to discuss and agree, and other officials. And there was nothing that says we've been contesting. We were discussing as comrades, both of us understanding equally the challenges that face the organization, particularly if you take our decision that we have taken, the 10 years program of really producing a cadre of today of the ANC. These are things that we are saying, how do we deal with this? A cadre that is no longer the cadre that was fighting to defeat apartheid and bring freedom. The cadre that says, how do we work in South Africa to deal with the challenges that we face today to make South Africa a prosperous country? You need a cadre that is politically prepared for that, how to serve the people of this country, not in the capacity to liberate them, but in the capacity to change the quality of their lives. So that's the kind of a discussion. The issue of what happens, as it has been raised to Comrade Khalima about his being the state deputy president, it did not arise at all, because that's not an issue. He is a deputy president of the country and is continuing to do so. So the issue could not arise for a discussion, but it's not an issue.
But looking at his role as deputy president of the country and the role he now has of leading the political schools, is he going to have the time to play both roles?
He will certainly have the time, all the time. As you know, as the deputy president of the country, one of the tasks that he has to undertake, because he's a member of parliament, he is the leader of government business in parliament, that is what will take him away. Outside of that, he's not going to be attending cabinet committees and cabinet meetings. So whilst many of us will be doing that, he will be doing the work of the ANC. So there will be time for that. He will not be on his own. He will be a key factor in that kind of political program that is going to come about.
Well, Mr. President, after this short commercial break, we're going to talk about the decade of the cadre and how you intend to change things around and to produce the kind of cadre you're saying no longer talks about or about how they fought to fight apartheid, but service delivery and all those other things that the South Africans want from ANC leaders. After the break.
Prancer returns Saturday at 8 on your award-winning channel, SABC 1, Mzansi for sure.
It's your boy, Young.
You ready? Of course, you're ready for Beyonce. It's gonna be bootylicious for sure. Shake your jelly and catch Beyonce live in concert Monday the 24th of December at 9, only on SABC 1, Mzansi for sure.
Welcome back. We're in conversation with President Jacob Zuma following the conclusion of the ANC's 53rd elective conference here in Mangaung. Mr. President, now the ANC has identified this next decade as the decade of the cadre. Apart from the political school, you want them to embrace the kinds of values that will make the ANC proud, but also the values that are going to ensure that, for example, at local government level, at provincial government level, people do what they are supposed to do.
Definitely. And we believe such values don't come on their own. They've got to be inculcated. They've got to be worked on to members and cadres. If I just go back a little bit, if you talk about the struggle, we had to do a lot. We had to create what we call the commissariat. In other words, the political side of our army, wherein politically you were made to understand the struggle We are made to understand your role, your sacrifices, the importance of the people as a freedom fighter. And therefore, at all material times, even if we are facing death, you will have that in mind. And I think one example is a young man, Solomon Mahlangu. As he faced the gallows, he leaves a message for the people. Now, you need that kind of a cadre in the ANC this time around to say the kind of a cadre that you must have is a cadre who must understand we are here either in the national, provincial, or local government to serve the people. That must be internalized by the cadres. In a particular way, in the ANC style, what are the values of a cadre who must today become a councillor? Should you get there and develop other ideas that are not in keeping with the principle of serving the people? If you come across wrong things, what must you do to ensure that that starts from the councillor upward? These people need to be politically prepared for that, so that if the ANC says, we give you this responsibility, the ANC is certain. Like when you sent an MK cadre into the country from outside, you knew that man, that woman will fight and die for the country. You know, if you give a cadre the tasks in government, you know whether we are not there or there, that cadre will never be corrupted. That cadre understand why we have to serve the people. That is a kind of a cadre we would want to come up with. You cannot create that cadre without clear politics and identifying, therefore, the values of the ANC, why the ANC has lived long, why it has a task to change this country, and that cadres are, in fact, the fingers and the toes of the ANC to succeed to create that kind of a situation. So that's the cadre we are talking about.
In your analysis, Mr. President, when and where did the rot set in? Where did the wheels come off? Where did things go wrong?
I think it's simple. If you were a freedom fighter at a given time, you were struggling, your responsibility was to destroy the enemy, destroy everything of the enemy, liberate people, etc. You are in a different setting. Yours is to fight the struggle. Whatever happens into the country, the oppressors, that's oppressors' business. You destroy a bridge, whether people cross or not is not your responsibility. The government must see to it. You actually weaken the government. Once you take over the government, the situation changes. You can no longer destroy a bridge. You need the bridge. In fact, if you destroy that bridge, you have got to take the responsibility to rebuild it. In other words, the kind of responsibility that you have differ. I don't think we gave ourselves time to do what we are now saying we are going to do, to say the situation has changed, and therefore let us deliberately bring this cadre across to understand the new environment, to adapt to the new environment. I think people were given the tasks without this preparation, and therefore some succeeded to keep the values, others were not able to do so. And it is not very good to have a situation where you are told there's a lot of corruption, and you discover some of the cadres, in fact, that they are, which means something has gone wrong. I think things went wrong that when we were crossing the line, so to speak, into the responsibility of governance, we did not pay the same attention we did when we were preparing cadres for the struggle. We did not prepare them politically sufficiently for governance, for the new type of or set of values as you get into government. What are the challenges? What are the temptations?
But couldn't, Mr. President, simple things like acting or behaving differently, when, for example, I think the notion of someone is innocent until proven guilty must be like upheld and something that is supported by everybody. But then when there are allegations that someone has done something, and people keep on seeing that person performing those duties or playing the role that they are playing without any interference or them feeling that they have done something wrong or that they would have done something wrong, because that would still need investigation. But to what extent should the ANC lead by example, or cadres of the ANC say, well, if there are allegations, especially when there's, well, I'll use prima facie evidence, although if you go back to our history, and some of these things would be problematic. But aren't there instances that are clear-cut, where there are grounds for suspicion, and then upon which the ANC should perhaps stand up and say, maybe, comrade, you should take a back seat until we resolve this issue or until we investigate fully? Isn't that part of the problem?
No, that is part of the problem. But again, cases are not the same. But if also you have not developed this kind of culture that I'm talking about, and that understanding is not entrenched in the entire movement, if that is not done, you are likely, if there were allegations, if you said, let me act, so for somebody to say, he's acting because he's so and so, whatever, because you are not moving from the same kind of page. I think it is absolutely important that we bring that as we talk about the cadre, that actually comes to the ANC's understanding, so that you can be able to say, much as the law says, allegations are allegations, innocent until proven guilty. The ANC could be in a position to say, these allegations are very clear, that there is something here, we can act. On these ones, we think, let us apply the kind of the usual, that a person is innocent until found guilty. That must go with a broader understanding of the ANC. Because the understanding, for an example, that I'm talking about, during the struggle, that became the understanding of the ANC. Even if a comrade was your comrade, very close, once that comrade has gone in and has clashed and has died, your way of reacting would be different than when you did not have that understanding. But I'm saying that understanding has to be brought into the ANC, so that the ANC, armed with that understanding, they are going to begin to say, what then do we do to ourselves if these kind of things happen? Therefore, the question of leading by the example comes in. So this is what we are trying to do, because even the values and the kind of culture that I'm talking about did not emerge immediately. It was a process in the course of the struggle. As the struggle took turns and twists, it created that kind of a cadre and that kind of an understanding, which we are saying now, this decade, we must bring that. It will be part of what I think is going to emerge as a new cadre.
So, President, this conversation continues right after the break.
Okay, see you later.
I've never been to heaven.
Whoa.
But I'm pretty sure that's where you came from.
Whenever you savor a Castle Milk Stout,
Girl,
you've got... You could win a private unplugged concert by a top South African artist for you and 40 friends.
girl.
Buy a Castle Milk Stout and SMS the unique on-pack code. Castle Milk Stout. Savor the moment.
Yo ho ho! With Pipcell and Vodacom, you get the Nokia 1280 with free phone sock and 5 free DVDs for only $149. Or a free Vodacom starter pack with 2 free DVDs. This Christmas is an yo ho ho Christmas with Pipcell. Best prices and more.
At Hi-Fi Corp, you get massive savings with their festive sale. Like this Sansui MP3 player with video playback and headphones for only 599 Rand. Save 100. A Nikon digital SLR camera twin lens package, now only 6,799 Rand. Save 600. Or a Sansui 55-inch Full HD LED, now only 7,999 Rand. Save a massive 2,000. Only at Hi-Fi Corp.
So, pi equals 3.142.
Let's go! Happy people, everyone! Yo, I'm talking to you! So get up on your seat right now!
MTN Zone and get more mahala more of the time.
Keep your cool with Costa Light's new Grab and Go cold activated chill pack. Now also available in 440ml cans.
Welcome back. We're in conversation with President Jacob Zuma. The ANC conference ended on Thursday, and we're talking to him about some of the resolutions of that conference, but also some of the things that South Africans would like to know about on the back of that conference. Mr. President, allow me to take you back to Polokwane once more. You told the 52nd conference, I quote, "The ANC has always had the fortune of having a vibrant and robust youth league. The league remains consistent in pursuit of what they believe is right, in defense of the ANC and democracy. The youth league continues to play its role as a historical agent of change and a source of energy for the ANC." You continued, "The ANC Youth League is a breeding ground for future leaders of the ANC. This has to be encouraged and maintained for the growth of the organization." Do you still hold that view, given the events of the past couple of years especially?
Absolutely. That view will remain a view of the ANC. That's what the ANC Youth League has to be. Otherwise, the ANC will be the organization of old people. Absolutely important for them to do so. It has always been the case. There's a history. When the ANC Youth League was established, those leaders who established the ANC Youth League, they were very vibrant. They actually moved and brought militancy in the ANC, and they were able to help the ANC to really take a particular level in terms of the quality of ideas and in the battle of ideas, etc. Always important. And therefore, that will always be important. What is not going to be useful is when the Youth League misunderstand what I said in Polokwane and think that theirs is to bully the ANC and bully everybody. And therefore, misdirect the energy, the vibrancy that you talk about, as it has been evident in the recent past. That's what is not going to be acceptable. So the statement I made remains true, and that's what this conference, for an example, took a very clear decision that the incoming NEC must address the issue of the youth, to help the youth, to correct the youth, so that it does what exactly I said in Polokwane than what it was doing in the recent past.
Some will remember on June 16 last year, you went there to address the conference of the Youth League. Clearly, you were patient. You waited there. You really wanted to address them. One's wondering, would you say that was a defining moment? In other words, you wanted to give them the message you wanted to give them, after which you were then prepared to act on them. Would that have been the turning point? In other words, as soon as they didn't listen afterwards, then you decided this is it, they must be dealt with.
No, not necessarily. I did not go there to say this is the last time. I went there to the conference of the ANC Youth League, as it has always happened, that the president must appear and talk. And I spoke. And if you noticed, the behavior was really becoming untoward.
Yes, a lot of people remember you asking one of the Youth League leaders whether they were talking to you.
Exactly. Because that was a display of disrespect, display of very funny, the bullying one that I'm talking about. Because if you remember, I was talking about our intervention in terms of Libya, And the youth held a totally different view, wrong view, without knowing what was happening. And he was remarking on that one. Now, you don't do that. You don't heckle your president talking because you hold a certain view and say he's lying. Well, that's what the man was saying. Now, that's not what, and I deliberately said, are you talking to me? Not that I didn't hear what he was saying, but I deliberately said, are you talking to me? And he said, no, I'm saying something else. That's a behavior that I'm talking about. That behavior cannot tally with what I was saying in Pulukwa. And of course, it was our task to try to help the ANC Youth League to come in. At that time, the Youth League of the ANC had done a number of things outside the very constitution, their own constitution, and the constitution of the ANC in terms of dealing with one another or dealing with those who differed with them. and as you'd recall, the situation was not right. We were still ready, as we were still ready up to the last minute, to help them, to come. Once there was a misbehavior that began to lead to the processes of ill discipline, and therefore disciplinary processes by the structures that are supposed to do so. Again, instead of that youth league saying, well, certainly we are now told we've done something wrong, we must go to the disciplinary process, let us do so. They actually proceeded to want to undermine that and wanted to meet the officials to discuss the case. I don't do so. So instead of wanting a meeting to discuss politics, they wanted the meeting to discuss the case and continue to do so, and did all things that no youth ever done before. Now, what also was glaring at that point was their misinterpretation of the militants and the vibrancy that the Youth League would have been having in the history. For an example, they will quote instances of some ANC leaders who were taken out at a given time because they did not agree with the youth. And they were misunderstanding it altogether, because those youth leaguers were in the ANC. They discussed matters in the ANC structures. They did not stand up and organize rallies to swear at the leaders and say, we are going to take this leader out. They never did so. But when they did what they were doing, they thought they are actually repeating what was done by very responsible young people of the ANC. So this is a point where we say, at all material times, we'll sit back and say, it's not done this way, it's done this way. But they must be ready to listen. If they are given an opportunity to appear before the disciplinary committee, they must do so. They must humble themselves to do so. They can't say, this process we need a political process, not this one. Because it is a political process. There's no political organization that can engage in any other process which is non-political.
Mr. President, very briefly on the last point on this matter, what is the understanding of what the ANC NEC is now going to do in looking at the leadership of the ANC Youth League? Is it about looking at maybe getting them to hold another conference where they're going to elect new leadership? Or is the National Executive going to look at the possibility of perhaps getting people in a caretaker capacity and dealing with all the challenges that you've identified? Can you just clarify what it is that the NEC is going to be doing around the NEC?
Well, conference has taken a very clear decision that the incoming NEC must address the question of the youth. I can't then describe the details, what is it that's going to be done. Certainly, you know, they don't have a president. They've got an acting president. They don't have a secretary general. They've got an acting one, or a deputy is acting. Now, you can't say that is normal. So the leadership that is coming in must address those issues. How they are going to emerge in terms of the outcomes, I think is going to depend on how the interaction is going to happen. Those are the details you cannot give, but certainly they must have a president, they must have a secretary. That is a process we should be arrived at together with the remaining leadership of the Youth League, talking together with the leadership nationally. And I'm hoping that for the Youth League will realize the Youth League is the substructure of the ANC. and they will be ready to engage, not to take a kind of an oppositional view, but that's not going to help. Whatever is going to happen, our intention, and the national conference articulated the problems that the youth has had. So we've got to clarify that. We've got to agree that the leadership of the ANC must guide everybody. We are all guided by the NEC. I sit as a president of the ANC in the ANC National Executive Committee. I'm guided by what the ANC decides. I can't say because I don't agree, I'll do something else. That's an ANC. I'm hoping that the period leading up to now, the current Youth League membership and those who are in the NEC, they must have realized the kind of difficulties they've put this organization, which is so important, firstly, to nurture the young people politically in the country, firstly, to make the youth to be attractive to the ANC, but also to give the mother body an opportunity to mold them for the future leadership of the ANC.
Mr. President, we're going to take another commercial break. We will be back right after this.
Together with a castle.
Get ready for fun in the sun with Pep. Make the most of the holidays with these summer deals. Like preschool girls vest tops for only $19.99 and preschool boys clam diggers at just $44.99. Get everything you need this festive season only at Pep. Best prices and more.
Mahala?
Mahala?
Yes, it's Mahala.
Mahala! Mahala! Get more Mahala with MTN International Calling. You could get up to 100% Mahala discounts on international calls to over 200 countries. Dial *141 *4*2 hash to join MTN Zone. Get Mahala international calls or Ozo Sala. For a beer to be a true champion, it must be sent to compete against the world's best. And the winner is International beer critics agree with what South African men have always known. One beer has the champion taste, unmatched in gold, flavor, and refreshment. Carling Black Label.
Welcome back. We're in conversation with President Jacob Zuma following the conclusion of the ANC's national conference here in Mangaung. Mr. President, I want us to use the remaining time to just speak to some of the issues that people have posted on our Facebook page. Mkolisi Fortune Hadebe says, how far is the ANC with moral regeneration program in a society where our youth is fast becoming a lost generation?
Well, on that one, we have in government, for example, the moral regeneration program, which is going on. I don't think there is enough vigor in that program, and I think we must go back to it. I have had an exchange with Archbishop Tutu on the same question. We together are supposed to discuss when are we calling a summit to discuss the moral degeneration in the country. So that matter is going to come back. We have also met the church leaders that we have discussed that very issue. And I'm sure that issue the ANC is going to take very seriously at this point in time.
Thank you. Dumisani Nhlapo says, does the ANC have any plans to put meaningful controls in place to curb the incompetency and widespread corruption at municipal level?
Absolutely. As a government, we are very much aware of that, the kind of allegations, and of course we have also come across those kind of things. We are saying, let us skill people so that they are ready for the jobs they are undertaking. The very fact that we are talking about the decade of the cadreship, it is also, in a way, addressing that very problem. So we are working very hard to ensure that we produce the kind of cadre that is equal to the task.
Siyabonga Sakiso Stole says, what will happen to comrades who hold government positions, who were part of the other list and were not voted into positions as officials or as ANC additionals? Should we expect any cabinet reshuffle early next year?
Not at all. They will be there. They are comrades. The question of the elections, as the ANC exercises its democracy, does not necessarily impact on government. Government is a different matter. Reshuffles are occasioned by different circumstances, not by what happens in the ANC. So I don't think people should be worried about it.
Linditemba Mike Steba says, why must we as young people of South Africa trust that this time around things will change for the better?
Well, because the ANC, as we have said, always work on the issues to ensure that we are able to address things with the youth as well as the populace generally. In the ANC, there is always a very vigorous participation of the ANC Youth League, and therefore the young people in the ANC who understands where the youth comes from, who understands the challenge that face the youth. So at all material terms, what are the interests of the youth gets incorporated in what the ANC does.
Okay. Cynthia Mienizungu Ebinoni says, what are your plans about the killings of politicians that are taking place in KwaZulu-Natal?
Those issues are being investigated very vigorously, and I think at the right time, I'm sure the results will come, because it is clear that those killings are in a sense informed by certain things, and I don't want to make assumptions because it is important to know exactly what it is. But they've been very, very funny in the manner in which they're happening. We are working with the police to come to the truth about what is it that has made the killings to take place. They've not just been in Natal only, I think, as Mpumalanga, as well as recently in Northwest. So that's why we're very keen to establish what are the causes.
Last question, very briefly, Mr. President. Ntokozane, purpose-driven Matebula.
Sure.
Will the
what name?
Will the president be running for president again after his term has been completed, or is this the last time?
This is the last time. This is the second term that I'm running. I'm not going to run next time. Nowhere I can. In fact, my initial feeling was that I wanted to do just one term. But it is the ANC that always gives me the task. But I'm sure the ANC would not also give me the task for the third term. I'll just do 2 terms. This is the last.
Mr. President, thank you very much and all the best.
Thank you very much, my brother. All the best.
Well, that's how we come to the end of this interview with President Jacob Zuma. Goodbye.
SABC